Belgium has raised its terrorism alert to the highest level following suicide attacks at Brussels International Airport and a city metro station. More than 30 people were killed in the bomb blasts, which the Islamic State has claimed responsibility for. International Relations Professor Robert Patman joins us to talk about it. Good evening.
Good evening, Rebecca.
Should Kiwis be worried about this?
Well, I think we should be concerned. It's a part of the world where many Kiwis have a connection. It's the third largest trading market for us. And a lot of people from this country travel there and do business there, so I think it is something that we should clearly be aware of. And of course the problem's not just confined to Europe, although attacks in Paris and now tragically in Brussels have caught the headlines. There have been attacks around the world. Places like Nigeria and Tunisia have also had appalling attacks as well.
Is there any discussion about global repercussions?
I think it's very difficult to judge at the moment, because I think Brussels is in shock. They've been expecting this, but I think there will be tough language. There's always tough words after incidents like this. And John Key said that the Brussels episode showed why it's important for countries to stay together in the coalition against ISIS. Those words are fine, but I think we must also think what can be done politically as well as militarily to try to staunch ISIS's activities, because clearly it's making a lot of people feel very uncomfortable.
Are these attacks likely to be in retaliation to the capturing of the main suspect in last November's Paris attacks? That's
a very good question. It's very difficult to ascertain. Two interpretations: that it was retaliation, but there's another interpretation saying that this operation was already in the works. Many of the organisers behind the Paris attacks, in both the beginning of last year and the one that occurred in November 2015, had connections with Brussels. A suburb, Malbec, they were located there and they had connections. So there is also an interpretation this operation was already in the works and they may have brought it forward. But it's very difficult to know at this point in time. We'll clearly learn more. They're going through footage from the airport, CTV footage. So yeah, we'll probably know a little bit more in the next day or so.
There's been some talk about this being a good reason to distance yourself from the European Union. Have you heard anything like that?
I think people at the moment, there's travel warnings, of course, and people are being advised not to go to Belgium unless it's absolutely necessary. And Belgium's in a state of lockdown at the moment. And it's not the first time. It was also in a state of lockdown shortly after the Paris attacks in November. Not necessarily. If you think about it statistically, places like Brussels are quite large populations. Europe has a very large population, Western Europe and East Central Europe. And statistically, this sort of thing, the chance of it happening are quite remote. But, actually, it does add to people's sense of insecurity and vulnerability. So I suppose it is off-putting, yes.
Does New Zealand have much of a relationship with Brussels?
Yes, it does. We are we are a partner of NATO on an informal basis, and we are negotiating a free trade deal with the EU. So, as I say, Brussels looms large in New Zealand's political and economic orientation with the external world. So it is important. And the other thing is, of course, we will be affected by any dislocation that results. And there is a concern at the moment that Europe is in a sort of meltdown situation where it's fighting amongst itself over what to do. And this is a big external export market for us. So, and there's also the whole uncertainty about Britain's membership of the EU. So it's all coming. Unfortunately, we got the makings of a perfect storm in terms of New Zealand's European connection.
International Relations Professor Robert Patman, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Happy Easter.
Thank you, you too.